Paranormal King Radio Network, bringing you the best paranormal hosts and guests. Bringing you the best paranormal shows and features. Playing the top musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. With the best paranormal hosts and guests. The best in paranormal shows and features. Playing the best musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. The paranormal will never be the same.
Your radio has been taken over by forces unknown. Be prepared as we discuss the paranormal, things unseen, unknown, and unexplained. Here on the Half-Past Dead Paranormal Roundtable on the Paranormal King Radio Network with your hosts Roger Belt and Frank Lee. Keep listening if you dare.
Here we're on the air broadcasting.
So this is the Half-Past Dead Paranormal Roundtable, you guys. And I'm Roger Belt, your host, along with
Frank Lee right here, telling nothing but the truth here.
and we have Kat Hobson with us, and we've been discussing things for a while, and nobody ever knew we were here.
Oh, okay. Let's break it to them. We weren't abducted.
Oh,
Everyone
you gotta
listening
stick with the story, Frank.
Everyone listening was abducted. You don't know where you were for the past 15 minutes.
Yeah,
do
that's
you?
right. Y'all just thought y'all were here. See, y'all really weren't.
I bet they don't remember a thing we said. On the
That's
show.
right. Y'all don't remember anything we
No.
said, do you? See, there you go. There's that time loss thing.
There was so much confusion in the chat. They must have just come back.
Yeah, it was that time loss thing. See, they just think they were here. They actually weren't.
So we were
now,
looking for every one of you.
and we want y'all to describe the inside of that mothership for us.
I want to know if it looked like Independence Day.
Yeah, really. And did you see dude there in the little spaceship going, oops?
Oops. We have got to work on our communication.
I'm saying. Anyway.
Now that they found Elvis and Jimmy Hoffa.
There you go.
Elvis has left the building.
I can quote that flick.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's better than mine.
I didn't order no pizza, boy.
So how's everybody now that y'all are all back with us?
Yeah, now that y'all all came back from the mothership, how's everybody doing? Just not if you can hear me. Is there anyone at home? Anyway,
We want to start.
uh, well, let's see. Where was I? Let me see here. Uh, da, 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 da.
Well, let's see. What all did we talk about?
We talked
Oh,
about how wonderful all of us are.
yeah, we did talk about that. You
Okay.
know,
It was a
Th-
mutual
this
admiration society.
right.
we're simply marvelous, darlings.
Right.
Anyway,
Now we did come up with the solution for peace in the Middle East. Did someone write that down?
Well, I thought it was world peace. It was just global. I've got my notes here.
Okay, I
Uh,
hope you wrote it down because I don't remember
oh,
what we
you
said.
know what? Kylie the Wonder Lab ate them.
Oh crap!
there you go.
Do you
Yeah.
remember Roger? Oh wait, no.
uh, I wanted to ask you about the Old South Pittsburg Hospital
Ooh, ask me
uh,
about that.
because I actually I was on a live stream with them during an investigation, and I actually talked to the owner on the in the chat room, and they had like 16 cameras running, I think, at the
They did.
time,
Hmm.
and of course you could see everything except for when now and then one of the cameras went out, but
Yeah.
uh, that oh man, I've been wanting to go there. That is, it's an awesome place.
It is an awesome place, and I can hook you up with someone who is going in August if you would like to do a 2 night there. But
Ooh, that'd be cool.
it is absolutely just phenomenal. And now it does have new management,
Oh,
so
okay. So it's
I've
not
got
the same people.
it's the same people since a little bit before Christmas, and it's
Okay,
much better
the
now.
ones that I talked to, that was oh, good lord, that's probably been
See,
2 years ago.
yeah, they kind of absconded with things, and
Ah,
things went south. Well, Old South Pittsburgh, no. But in all seriousness, it is back in business. It is booming. They just did a Valentine event um, of an investigation
now
of a
there's where
couple.
you take your loved one for Valentine's Day.
Well, I couldn't take my loved one there because he would just absolutely not be interested. But
Sounds
I
like
do
my
know a
wife.
couple who does do that. I know 3 couples who do that together. So, well, maybe 4, and
Right.
that is something to think about. So, but when we were there, it was off the charts, off the chain. It was my first time using a thermal imager, and that was pretty cool. We saw little baby footsteps coming toward us, and then we saw a little baby bum mark where it fell down, and
Oh, wow.
that was the coolest thing on the face of the planet. Then it was my first time having an intense um, K2 actual conversation with someone.
Wow.
And it was so active and so long, and it was direct responses. And my husband laughed. He's like, you've got to start think, well, this may have something to do with what we were talking about. He said, you have to be nicer to those ghosts. You sound bossy. Because every time that she would just get excited and she would just continue to kick my K2, and I would say, okay, you're going to have to stop or I can't ask you another question. Please stop that now. And boom, it would stop. On demand every time. No
Wow.
kidding. And I have complete video of that. And it got to the point that we finally actually had to walk away because I ran out of questions, but I invited her to join us. So, but it was in the nursery area where the rocking chairs and stuff are if you get to go up there. And the fact that they had video running the whole time was neat for me because I purchased the video that was made that night. And friends of mine watched us do our investigation as well. The only
Cool.
thing I didn't like about it, and it was probably a very, very good trigger, was that they had okay, you have to understand I'm an empath and I feel emotions. And
Right.
even if the person isn't right there, if something is happening, I can feel them. Um, and they played a recording of someone in cardiac arrest
Oh wow.
and dying. And it was so long. I thought I was going to just go right with them. And I was traumatized because what I didn't like about it is the only thing in the entire South Pittsburg Hospital that I would probably change is that in the course of that recording, no one ever came to help the man.
Wow.
There was never a code. You could never hear people running in with a crash cart in the recording. There was none of that. And I think that if I don't know if I was getting the reading from the person in the recording or from the spirits in the hospital, but it was just like, why are they just letting me lay here and die? Why is
Right.
no one helping him? Why is no, I guess it was a bunch of people because I got, you know, personal pronouns as well as not, but it was, to me, I was so traumatized. I was just like, eek. And I don't know if the new people do that. They may do it because it really probably was such a great trigger. Um, but I did not care for that aspect. But it's the only thing in the whole place I didn't care for. So that's pretty good.
So I when you were there, um, what would you say was the most profound experience that you had in Pittsburgh?
Oh gosh, I actually had several. Um, my most profound experience probably was that recording. But personally, something that I was involved in, I think it was that conversation. I mean, because it was a mother, this was not her first child. She'd had all of her children in that hospital. She was local to South Pittsburgh. Um, she was excited about having the child. I mean, she was in her moment still. She had not passed and knowing what was going on. So that was pretty intense for me.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and ask this because while everyone was on the spaceship and got abducted, I'd made the remark that of how much I have learned from you and how I would come to you for advice. So that's what I'm about to do now. I might be going to Old South Pittsburg later this summer.
Cool.
Um, so
Hey, it'd be cool if we
as
could go up there together.
yeah, I can probably get that arranged. Um, for what would be your advice to someone who are going to go up there and investigate?
Right.
What would you recommend as far as what spot should they check out or what
The nursery.
nursery?
The nursery and downstairs there's I think it's a surgical ICU. Yeah.
I was
But
thinking that would be a good place. Yeah.
but it's directly across from the first floor nurses station. And when I went in there, I walked I'm sorry, there's some sort of noise behind me. I'm sorry if that bothers you. But I was walking through people and I don't always get that sensation or that
Hmm.
experience. But as I walked into the room, there were like three or four living people in there and like seven or eight non-living people in there. And I kept walking through them and I was like, oh, excuse me, pardon me, come in. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. So I guess maybe that would be right up there on the, you know, thing that impressed me while I was there too. But I would set up it there, and I would use digital voice recorders at different places through there. But put your little glow sticks by them because it's dark.
Right.
And that's also a good investigation tip. Glow sticks with your equipment.
Yes.
But it helps. And there's supposed to be children that will play with you on the second floor.
Hmm.
And I did not get that experience. And I don't think anyone there with me that night did. But we did catch a couple of giggles, but nobody would throw a ball.
Did you use any trigger devices or anything like that?
Just toys, just balls and stuff like that. But there's another room that's supposed to have two old women in it, and I did see motion of an object in there. And one of them's supposed to be hateful, and the other one's just like, sweet as can be, just a little sappy. And the fact that they were roommates is pretty interesting. And the fact that they're still roommates is pretty interesting.
Right.
There's a basement that has mechanical rooms, and there's activity down there. And, the whole place is just a great experience. And I wasn't there at the time of there was no one there when I was there who was provoking.
Hmm.
But I thought that the recording was pretty provoking. I was feeling a lot of response. I don't know if anyone ever actually got a response to that, but there was a lot of emotion going to it. So it's really off the chain.
Wow.
You'll love it.
Well, did they do the recording? I mean, was it meant to manipulate people, or
To manipulate the spirits, you mean?
no, to manipulate the people that's doing the investigating?
I don't think so. You would, because no one else reacted to it like I did.
Or, they might have been doing it to try to stir up the activity. Who knows? I don't know.
It was to
But
stir up the activity.
either way, it was wrong to do that like that.
Yeah, because if you had people in there who did die of cardiac arrest,
Right.
then and that's what I was feeling was, why aren't they coming to help me? Why
Right.
is this going on? And I actually felt like someone had screamed, help him, just help him. So I was ready to go, but there wasn't anywhere to get away from it. It was over the PA system.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah. But, those were different managers. And, it may just be that people love that idea and request it all the time. I don't know. And I'm not slamming Old South Pitsburg Hospital. I love it. I love the new owners. I think that they're doing a great job. They've cleaned up the courtyards, and it's very well looked after now. And people care about it. So that's a good thing. And I will go back. I'm planning to go back. So
Well, awesome. The yeah, the interesting thing about it is, as you were describing that, I was thinking, if they're playing that to get a response, it would seem like they couldn't get a good response from it if they were to get a response. Be kind of like, reopening a closed wound.
Exactly.
yes, it was. It's exactly what it was. So I don't
That's
know.
why. That's why I was saying I didn't agree with that. That.
Right.
Now, if they would have done it with, the doctors and nurses coming in, and they're
Yeah,
trying to do something, then, that would have been all right. But just to do
yeah,
that with them in agony, no.
yeah. And maybe the reason I I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was a different manager. I don't know if they still do it or not. if they do, I'm sure they do it with the best of intentions. I don't think they mean to cause harm.
Right.
So, because I just can't imagine, because you're not allowed to release spirits there.
Right.
You're not allowed.
Most places don't let you do that.
Yeah, but sometimes, like the other night, Frank, you have people that want to go.
Right.
And, I'm going to never be allowed in any other paranormal place. But I just think that, if something is trapped, I hate being trapped in situations.
Well, if they're asking you to help them,
yeah,
how can you say no?
yeah.
I'd probably get kicked out in a hurry too.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there. I believe that, this is just my personal opinion, but I believe if you have that ability, I believe that you have it for a purpose. You have that gift for a
Yes.
reason, and if you have an opportunity to use it, someone is begging you, will you please help me? Then, me personally, I feel like you are, to a degree, obligated to help that person because there are so few people who actually can do it.
And so few who come across their path.
Right. Exactly.
It's just, I am, it's like the woman that I was talking to in the nursery. She was not interested really in leaving. She never mentioned it. I never said it was an option, but they usually know. And, it was just one of those things that it's kind of a tough policy to have to agree to.
Right.
But I do help where I can.
Absolutely.
If I can get some, we had that experience where we had someone, saying help. There were a couple of different people where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And, so when you get that, then obviously you're going to do what you can to try to help.
Right. Absolutely. That, I feel like, I mean, that's just, me personally. If I can help someone, whether it be a spirit or a living person, then
Yep.
I'm going to. I mean,
Yes.
I feel like that's the only right way to handle that.
Well, it's, like you said, living or dead. You do what you can for who needs it. And, you don't usually ask them how they got in that predicament. You just go and you just help them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something that you find on so many residential cases.
Yes.
You find you never know what you're going to walk into. You don't know if it's something that's been brought there. You don't know if it's something that's tied to the house, if it's tied to the property, of you know what particular situation it may be, but it a lot of times the it seems like the spirits that are at a location are wanting help just as much as the clients who called
Exactly. That's
I
what I'm
agree.
saying. How do you say no?
you.
You
Right.
can't.
I mean, helping the client is a wonderful thing, but helping the spirits is kind of even a little bit more of a wonderful thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's the great thing about it is sometimes it works out so that by helping that spirit, you are in turn helping the client.
Exactly. Well, you
You
are because
absolutely are.
that may be the only reason they're there. Is they're trying to communicate with the owners,
Hmm.
and they don't know what to do.
Right, absolutely.
Yes.
We run into
You
that
know, and
so often.
and in some cases when the living don't communicate back, they get a little ticked off and they act up. You know, I
Right,
mean,
right. They are as in a lot of cases that we come across. Um, the the people that live there will they know something strange is going on, but they try to over rationalize everything, and
right?
they it's good to be able to explain something,
Yes.
but they try to come up with some explanations that are so far fetched that it's easier to you know that a ghost actually sounds more plausible than the the theory that they come
Yes.
up with. That and I know that both of both of you being investigators, you've come across those cases where you're talking to a client who's called you at one point and they're terrified. Now they're trying to explain it away. It was where it's like, well, the light was coming in at this angle with this
Right.
picture, and then it reflected off of this mirror, which caused it to heat up the wall behind this, which caused it to expand, which made the picture fall off the wall at this particular time, and
Yeah.
Right.
then the Earth's rotation mixed with it, and it's like, no.
Are they explaining a tornado or a thunderstorm or?
Yes.
Cyclone, even though they're not in the Pacific. Yes, I agree.
Well, we had rotation with this storm, and there could be a tornado. That's what blew the picture off the wall. That's what.
Sounded just like a freight train.
Yeah.
Right. The high EMF field inside the house mixed with the open window on the northwest corner, and the storm door was open on the south end of the house, and it created a micro vortex,
Yeah.
and,
And
and
we had a downburst, and
it wasn't really psychokinetic activity. It was a micro vortex that moved. So it started its path of travel from the master bedroom,
the whole house shook.
and
Thought it was an earthquake.
I mean,
Well,
but
I tell
you
you,
do hear this though. You do hear it.
well, you hear
Well,
it,
and
and
usually when they
it's
start doing
crazy.
that, that's whenever they're afraid somebody's going to think they're nutballs, so they try to
Yes,
explain it away. See?
yes. Well, because you know that people, y'all are Southern, right? And quite frankly,
Oh
what's
yeah.
that thing? We don't hide our crazy. We put it out on the front porch for a glass of sweet tea.
Yes, we do.
No, we
And
put
you know,
it. We put it on the news and tell it to describe the tornado.
there you
Exactly.
go. There
And
you go.
tonight at 6
And
we have Frank Lee and Roger Belt.
it's just so funny because what they're trying to do makes them sound more uh they're in denial so much because they don't want to have to own it, and then
Exactly.
they sound like goobers.
Right.
Well, and then they see after they call you and set everything up, they think about it. Well, I don't want my
Hmm.
neighbors to see these people showing up over here and think I'm loco.
Yeah. Well, I've had one of the teams that I've investigated with in the past had their logo on their truck.
Hmm.
They actually had a window decal. And I was like, people are not going to like you pulling up in their yard with that on their truck.
Right.
And of course, nobody ever asked me about that. So, and actually, it was how I found them. So it was a good thing. But it was. It worked out well. A friend of mine had taken a picture of their truck because he thought the decal was so funny. He didn't know that they
Right.
existed. And
Hmm.
I saw it posted on his Facebook, and I was like, done. I'm looking for a team. I'm going to call.
Right.
Maybe they're for real. Maybe they're not insane.
Right.
And they weren't insane. So that was a good thing.
So what you're saying is me fixing up that a replica of the Ghostbusters ambulance and putting Casper on the side of it's probably not a good idea,
Well, you know what? There's places that
Oh,
would be good. Because
speaking of which,
go
Frank,
ahead,
I may have found me a hearse.
get out.
out going towards my brother's house. There's one sitting off in a yard back by a barn, and you can bet your rear end I'm going to be stopping and asking about it.
Wonder if they finished that last ride.
But I'm going to be asking about. Hey, man, would you consider parting with this? Now it's a little rough and ragged, so I know it ain't worth much. But
No, I was just as you're saying that. Most people that know me know I've played in and out of bands since I was a teenager, and one band in particular I played with back in the '90s. We couldn't afford. We just got started. We were all, you know, late teens, early 20s. Didn't know what we were doing. Didn't have any money, you know. So we just made do with what we could. Couldn't afford to get a truck or a van to haul our equipment around in. But
Oh
by
no.
by God, one year we pulled together some money out of all of our tax refunds, and we found it for sale. That somebody had a '74 Cadillac hearse, and this thing was it was ugly. I mean, it was so ugly it was cute. It was horrible. Still had the curtains and everything in it.
that one does too.
Um,
Get out.
so so yeah,
Sure
we
does.
what we did was we painted the thing primer black, and on the front, now on the back window we had the band logo on there, but on the on the front of it we put little flames going down the fender, and you see this black hearse with flames on it and everything. But it was kind of funny because you couldn't see the flames that well. You couldn't see them at all if it were pulled into a parking spot, front ways. You couldn't see it from the back. So it was so funny because we'd started playing at a lot of bars and places like that. And, we used to joke around about people driving past the bar when we were playing there because they'd see the hearse sitting out in the parking lot. They'd think, man, that's a rough place. They got the hearse on standby. We're not going to pull in there.
And what was the name of your band by chance?
Well,
The Deadheads.
if I'd only thought about it.
Flaming Dead People.
If the Grateful Dead hadn't already been taken at the time.
Yeah.
Well, hey, was it the Flaming Dead guys?
No, our name back then was Black Widow, which
Man, that works pretty good. You can
That did
have
work
the
with
hearse, and the hearse, and the jack o' lantern, and the Black Widow, and oh yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, we had a little red hourglass shape, on the hearse in a couple of places, and it worked pretty cool. I had my guitar, the coffin case that you see some of the, with, but yeah, we had so much fun out of that. Especially when we're on our way to a gig, and we're in traffic driving to a gig band, and people start pulling over to get out of our way.
Oh my gosh. Well, it helps with traffic.
Right.
Well, yeah, you don't have to worry about getting stuck in traffic. Everybody will move over and let you through.
Right. So.
That's one of my favorite stories I think I've heard about you yet.
Oh, that's...
Now,
I've
see,
heard some.
we're gonna get that hearse, and we're gonna have a nice graveyard with our logo on it and everything painted on the sides. Yeah.
But
Well, the people that did my very first show here with the Nest, New England Spirit Team, their car actually was done. They had an ambulance. They were at South Pittsburg with me, and they had an ambulance that was going to be done on counting cars.
Wow.
And that thing finished as a sweet ride, but man, does she get some, because she drives it all the time.
I have seen pictures of their vehicle, and
It's
that
beautiful.
thing is awesome.
Yes, it is stunning.
Well, you wait till you see the dead mobile.
Well,
See,
I'm ready. I'm ready. You go get that thing.
yeah.
Right. So, um, well, Roger, do I need to look and see if I still have some contacts for Hearst parts?
But yeah, I noticed it still had the curtains and stuff in the windows.
That's such a random thing to have in your yard.
Right. You you know but it's crazy how many times that I have. You talking about a hearse? I can't tell you how many people I know that have a coffin in their yard, or
A real one.
hmm hmm I know someone right now who has. As a matter of fact, this is on a case we investigated. Has a casket in their basement.
Are they just well planned? Or
No, they
that's so.
it's one. It's an old casket. It's one of the old wooden ones,
Has it been
and
used?
I'm not sure about that, but I know this person was actually was in the family throughout this person's childhood, and this person actually used it as a toy box when they were growing up.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I did an investigation that had an old used coffin in a
hmm
place, and that was a lot of profanity when it got opened. Not by me, by whatever was in
Right.
it. But that's why I asked if it was used because that's just a bizarre,
hmm
interesting, but a bizarre little
Well,
side fact.
how do you get a used coffin? I
Um,
mean, you dig them up and dump the body out, or
no, a lot of times, I know that when I lived in Georgia, we had so much flooding that cemeteries were having coffins wash out of them,
hmm
and some of them opened, the older ones, so there were more than coffins floating around, and they didn't necessarily know who went back with what, and as tragic as it is, I mean, it just that's
hmm
a nature thing that just happened, and so I would assume that that or some similar tragedy was how they got this one, and
Right.
it was it was gritty. The bottom was pretty much out of it, and it still had dirt and stuff, and it was a Twilight Zone experience. And they're using it actually in a haunted house location here in Birmingham.
hmm
So, and I'm here to tell you that it put it out.
Right.
So, it was something to experience, and I'm 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 just fine with having that be my one.
Right. So what you're saying is you don't want one to have at your house as a conversational piece.
No, but I really am all about these raised beds, and I can't get David to build me one. So, a couple of cinder blocks, and there you go.
well,
Right.
see, I thought about this. If I ever built a house, my entrance ways, my doorways would be coffin shaped with coffin lid doors on them.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
That's a hoot. Nobody would, well, actually, all the people you want to play with would come over, but that might get rid of those pesky in-laws.
There you go.
Right.
Say your
Uh,
mother-in-law comes over, I ain't going in there.
yeah, well,
So
that's funny.
you know it's what's funny is when you think about things like that, I I can remember some of the places that I've lived. That one house in particular, the original owner had hung herself in the kitchen, and it was a famous event that happened, and so there are quite a few people who knew about it. And now it's ironic because, everybody would think, okay, this person hung herself in the kitchen. That house has got to be haunted. Blah blah blah. It's in the oldest part of town. The whole time I lived there, I lived in that house for about 4 years. Never seen anything. That was the most peaceful location I've ever lived.
Really?
hmm No, never had anything happen there.
You didn't have people knocking on your door. Is this where the woman hung herself?
Right. No. The only disturbances I ever had was occasionally
Can we
I'd,
come in and see?
no, no, occasionally I'd have a Jehovah's Witness or a door-to-door salesman come up, but other than that,
Oh, and they're the ones
right,
you lead in there. Right
right.
there is where she hung herself.
No,
Yeah.
I'd invite them in and ask them if they wanted to help me sacrifice a frozen chicken. No, um, no, um, but no, it never had anything unusual or
I
nothing.
see. I just have to do it. I'd have to take them in there, and you still have to have the rope hanging up there, right?
Yep.
And you take them in there, and you say, "This is where the Jehovah Witnesses hang out."
Right. They I But what's funny about it is there were quite a few people who knew the background of it. They were completely creeped out. They didn't want to come in. um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, they didn't want to come in the house. They were scared of coming in there. Um, I It sucked living in a place like that because at this time I was a single man, and
And
you
you probably
know
stayed that way the whole time you
that
lived there.
I we always had, there quite a few times we had to go to their place. They didn't have
Right.
as much overnight
For
company
what, Frank?
when I was there. Well, so sometimes they have those late night movie marathons, and
There
Well,
you
and
go.
see, you could, have your lady friend sitting there with you watching TV and say, "Oh, by the way, did I tell you the previous owner hung herself in the other room?" See how close they get.
right,
Oh,
right. No,
that's
that can go one of two ways.
They either gonna snuggle up real close or head for the door.
Right. So, that they can either snuggle up real close or be like, "Oh, cool, I want to hang out here more often. Let me see
Right.
some," which would be my luck if I ever tried to use that.
let's investigate.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Oh, that's funny.
didn't you say you hunted ghosts? Let's go check it out.
Well, then you could get that old, can I check out your equipment?
right,
Line.
right,
So then
Yeah,
you'd
yeah,
be back in
yeah.
the ball game.
right,
There you go.
right. There's so many ways that you could, some
Right. Now,
different
see, I
insurance you could take
almost
out.
said something really not very nice. I have to control myself.
Right. Right.
But I mean, she brought it up checking out your equipment.
Right.
Well, speaking of equipment, I think that the other people were in the mothership when we were talking about the Echo
Right.
Box.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, for all you people in the mothership, we were discussing the Echo Box and what we thought about it as a piece of paranormal equipment, and also different ways that you can use the Echo Box. And I'll let Kat there tell you all about that.
Ah, well, I think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and it may actually be better because I don't know what was the best thing before sliced bread. But this piece of equipment is everything that you get with a spirit box without the background noise. And I had never used one. I've always used the SB7, and I was very impressed. The clarity, the fact that we were getting direct responses to questions, everything was just astounding to me. And we tried to go to the SB7 to kind of mix it up a little bit,
Hmm.
and I was just like, we might should go back to that Echo Box.
Right.
So so we did. And just so everyone knows, this is not an endorsement of it, a paid endorsement of it or whatever, because the next day I was in my Play Store buying that sucker. It's on my
Yep.
phone, it's on my tablet, it's on my iPad. I love it. And I just think it really is a fantastic tool. I prefer just a plain digital voice recorder for EVP sessions, but if you're going to use that, it's really terrific.
And as I said, we tried an experiment with it, running a white noise app and Echo Box at the same time with a 6 foot cord and surround sound system.
I would love to
And
have heard that.
oh, that was pretty wild. We got one where it said there was a grave in the backyard. We asked for how many people were there. We got three, and we got three names. So
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty wild.
Well, now, with the with the EchoVox, we were actually using that high dollar speaker that I just bought
Mhm.
a few of. It you know that's the key to using EchoVox. Of course, the PBS 7 or PBS 11 or just anything like that, really. But instead of buying the $30 speaker that doesn't sound worth anything that they advertise on a lot of the
Truth.
on the paranormal gear sites and things like that, I'm using my $11 Walmart speaker, and I really I'm so pleased with it that it's like I was saying earlier. I went back and bought five of them, so that way we've got um, plenty for the team to use, and um, it's just such a handy deal. But it works best with an external speaker too, because the way that the Echo Vox works, it actually utilizes the microphone in your device.
Mm.
So it's working almost like a layered um, audio recorder, and um, that way you don't get so much feedback and everything from the microphone being used. So it works out great. Um, Now, I won't go into specifics on the air yet, but Kat, I want to get you along. This is the handy thing about you just being 20 minutes down the road from me. Is I can say, "Hey, Kat, come over. I want you to check this out." Or we're going to investigate tonight. I want you to come along so you can see this. Um, I'm working on an experimental setup with some for doing audio with some parabolic microphones.
Those are incredible.
hmm And uh, when I get this particular piece of equipment finished, um, I want you to come along with us to help test it out.
Not a problem. How about how far out are we looking at?
I figure the rate it's going, it'll probably be a couple of weeks before, or a
Okay.
few weeks before.
I go into my parrot head mode starting tomorrow afternoon. So
Gotcha.
there's a parrot head party in Orange Beach. But that's my alter ego, everyone.
hmm
Jimmy Buffett fan since I was 15 and he was opening for Eddie Money. Yay.
Right.
But any reason to go to the beach though is a fabulous reason.
Exactly. Exactly. So I may need to just let you pick the testing location. Is what it sounds like, and we'll
Not a
we'll go
problem. Fort
right.
Morgan.
Right. We'll go
So,
to you.
but it's you know what would be fun would be in the tunnels in Sloss.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because there's so much that comes up from there. The main thing that I've got to do is get the right laser to go with this setup. Um, because it's going to have laser alignment on it.
Really?
hmm
That's pretty intense.
So so yeah, it's
Well, that's going to be interesting. The Ooh, we were talking about the Old South Pittsburg. We should talk about Sloss at some point.
Yes, definitely. That's
Oh, and not just Sloss, but Pensacola Lighthouse.
Love Pensacola Lighthouse. I had the most intense experiences there. Have y'all been?
No.
I haven't been in years and years, and when I
Have you
did go,
investigated it?
I didn't get to investigate it. I was
Oh,
there
we should do that.
just briefly. Definitely.
But that place is amazing. There was a woman who lived there who used to make her own perfume, and I didn't know that. And I was in the keeper's quarters with the people that were going to be leaving us there, and an investigator from my team and myself. And I'm like, okay, where are the fresh cut flowers because I don't see any. And she looked at me and she was like, "Excuse me?" And I said, "The fresh cut flowers because like that's a smell trigger and I need to know where they are." And the other person was like, "Yeah, I smell that too." And he was on the other side of the room from me by the windows. And the woman just said, the woman who was one of the keeper wives who died here used to make her own perfume." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about flowers, but I think that that is gardenia." And he said it's gardenia and jasmine, I think. And yeah, you could smell that up there. And there were child spirits up there. We had stuff downstairs. We had stuff in the tower. It was pretty cool.
Wow, that's it's so strange when you do get a phantom smell like that
Yeah, I had never had one.
because and the older perfumes are so much different. They're so distinct compared to the ones that you smell today. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, well, you're just smelling someone's perfume that they had on or something like that." That was, but
Right.
no, it is such a distinct difference when you go back 40, 50 years. The smells that they had because theirs weren't made from chemically derived fragrances. Theirs were all natural. Those were they went out and got what flowers were available or whatever
Yeah.
fragrant oils
Chemi-
were available,
chem-
and
chemically designed fragrances.
hmm yep. So
I mean, and this was
it was so.
so strong.
hmm
And it was behind me. It was in the children's bedroom behind me, and they were her children. So she also, when I forgot a piece of equipment, I was I was needing something to take up into the room in the tower, and so I just went, skedaddling down from the tower, zooming across, and ran up the stairs going in to get my piece of equipment, which was in the children's room. And it was like this great big old Batman cape thing just way, boomed up in front of me, and I was like, "I am so sorry. I did not mean to startle you, and I mean no harm to these children, but I need that piece of equipment right there, and I'm so sorry I scared you." I mean, she was, she was angry and had gone into, I mean, because it was like a big black mass, and I was just like, "Oh no." Oh no, that's what happens when you hurry and you scare the ghost. And
Right.
I mean, she bowed back down, but it was, oh man, I learned that lesson quick. I have never had to experience that again because I do not run at haunted locations. So, especially toward a child,
Right.
even if it's a spirit. So, but then I went up in that tower room and had a great experience there too. I mean, it is a great location. Everybody should get a chance to investigate there.
Uh, Absolutely. I've always heard so many stories about it, but the only time that I've got to visit there, I was on vacation, and wasn't able to actually investigate. So I definitely want to check it out.
Uh, it's really not a bad trip, from Tennessee or from here or from anywhere. We should have like a group trip
Yes, definitely.
and just, you know, it's not that far from Wisconsin either, or
Right.
Texas, or, Canada.
Hey, that's it. Hey, we know Ross is listening. That's it. We're taking this show on the road.
Yeah, network trip, network
Right,
field trip.
right. Paranormal Road Show.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think that if you have, seriously, there is a group that takes care of that lighthouse, and there is a paranormal team that works and I think also participates in the care of the lighthouse. So it would certainly be it would certainly be a great thing.
Oh yeah.
Right. Um,
But
I've always wanted to go down to St. Augustine, Florida,
oh gosh,
and
yeah,
I've wanted to start there and work my way up I-95. Um, because I-95 hits, you can take it up through Savannah, you can take it up through there's so many haunted locations that you
yeah,
pass along I-95. All the way up the eastern seaboard, all the way up into New England, goes all the way up through Amityville, all the way up into the Trans-Allegheny Mountains. And that that's what we need to do. I think Ross, should um, get us an RV, and we'll just pack it up and do like a paranormal road show, and
Right. Just
and
like
take
they did with the antique show.
yeah.
right, right.
That Pickard show, yeah, I think that's a good
See,
idea.
and hey,
And we would
and
be able
really,
to meet listeners and stuff too. That would be awesome.
right.
Exactly.
Hey, we could even. I'll tell you what. I'll bring I'll bring the DVR system. Everybody bring their cameras and everything, and we'll even do live feeds on YouTube.
That's excellent. Well, we can do that all day long.
Hmm.
That would be so cool, though.
I would like to make sure that we include Tybee and Jekyll Island in there.
Yes,
So Jekyll Island has some great haunted locations.
yes. I've never gotten to go down there. Now I've been to Savannah so many times that you can't count it, but I've never gotten to go on down to Jekyll Island, and I've always
Yeah,
wanted to because I've heard so many stories from there. But now Tybee Island, I actually usually when I go to Savannah, I usually stay on Tybee Island
you told
because
me that. Yeah, because it's
mhm. Yeah,
it.
you can stay there on the beach cheaper than you can stay in downtown Savannah. And I'd much rather look out and see the waterfront and see a beach than
Yes,
see River Street.
any day of the week.
Right.
I was disappointed because I was all excited. I had Savannah and Charleston confused, and back when I thought I was going to be well in time to hit that Moon River Brewery,
Mhm.
I was supposed to go to Savannah. It was going to be my first trip. And I was confused, and I'm sitting there thinking, Atlantic, Fort Sumter, all this other stuff, and I was just in the wrong city. But
Right.
I would have been so disappointed if I got there and I had a river instead of a beach.
Oh yeah.
Just or surprised, not disappointed, but just surprised. But
Right. Um. So now have you checked out Fort Pulaski and some of the other locations around there?
I have not. David, the only reason that I got to go over there, well, not that I got to go, but reason I was there on the specific trip was that my husband was doing a sales trip, and it was like, how fast can you get to Jacksonville, Florida, and still hit Augusta and, Tybee and all these other places? Because I was like, we're stopping. And he was like, well, but we're trying to get to, so I was like, but we're stopping. And
Right.
it was one, I had the best husband for me on the face of the planet. So yes, we stopped. And it was neat. And when we drove down into Florida, and we went through um, St. Augustine. We did the lighthouse, which is haunted because I wasn't even there to investigate, and it was wide open. And I've done the same at Key West Lighthouse and Jupiter Island, Jupiter Inlet. And there's one between there, between Jupiter and um, St. Augustine, that's name escapes me now. But it didn't have the same feel, but you could still feel people there, but it didn't feel creeped out.
Right.
So I love lighthouses. I like to climb.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's,
Have you gone out to Tybee Island?
yes,
Did you ever check out the lighthouse there?
no. We were in too big a hurry, but we had lunch and looked around to see if it was someplace that we would want to come back to. It was. And I did not get to go up in that one.
Because there they've got the lighthouse, and there's the old fort there
Yes.
for the old artillery battery. So
See, I just love stuff like that. My first paranormal investigation was at Fort Morgan.
I've not investigated Fort Morgan.
Well, you don't have to go at night.
Right.
But it is, for anybody listening, if you want to go there, it is snaky outside. You need to make sure that if you're walking around outside, like between the casements and between the structures, that you have on good shoes because it's marshy, and
Hmm.
that's a little, snake attraction area. So
Preferably some good tall boots.
yeah, if you have them, gaiters, the snake boots when you're fishing or hunting, little things that go over your pants leg, those are great because they stop the strike.
That you you know I was just thinking about somewhere I haven't been in years and years. This is probably around 2001, 2002 since I've been there, and I'm not sure if it's still even open anymore. But have you ever been inside Fort Mims?
I have not.
I know that place. There was the massacre at Fort Mims,
Hmm.
which it was basically stormed by the local Native American tribes, and it there were 300 soldiers there. All of them were killed except for I think seven, if I remember
Oh
correctly.
wow.
And that place, I got to investigate it. It was, like I say, 2001, 2002 at the latest. So I'm not sure if it's still even open, but there was a network of tunnels all up underneath the fort, and I never will forget in those tunnels. That was the first time I ever got to experience footsteps behind me
Ah,
everywhere I went.
that's not
And
alarming at all.
oh no, never, never. Especially when it's pitch black and the only way that you can see is either your flashlight or by looking through the viewfinder on your camera. And
Right.
keep in mind at this time, I had the latest, greatest video camera there was, which was the at you know at this particular time was the Sony Handycam
Right.
with the night shot and running the high eight. So the battery life on those wasn't very great.
Right.
Um, and so definitely a creepy experience, but down in those tunnels, you didn't have to look. All you had to do was open your eyes. You would hear footsteps. You would see shadows move. Very, very active.
Wow. Well, we should go because
Yes.
it is still open. They had an event in August of 2014. So we should really, really do that. I'm all about it. I like it when things
So
go bump in the night.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we
the
definitely
bumpier the
need to.
better, huh?
Yeah, yeah, we need to make that happen because we're only 20 minutes away from each other,
Yeah.
and all of these places are within a couple of hours drive. So it's not like it takes a major undertaking to.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. And, our teams are practically sister teams.
Right.
So I think that would be a terrific thing.
Yes. We've got to make this happen because I mean, really, our our furthest members apart from each other, there's only like an hour's difference
Hmm.
in travel time. So yeah,
Y'all starting to make me feel like the Lone Ranger.
Well,
yeah,
you can come too.
right, yeah,
We
Where's Tonto?
we got no issues with adding friends to do investigations.
absolutely. Well, we got to have Roger along just in case we encounter any of those invisible anacondas down
There you go. Yeah, see,
because
yeah.
I'm going to
Save
admit
me.
I'm prepared for a lot of things, but that's something I'm not prepared to handle.
No, no.
Well, I'd have to bring Dusty because see, he handled it. He
Right.
handled the snake, so he knows how to grab it just right and all that. And he'd bring convict ghost to kill it for us. So,
Right.
Well, there you go. Well,
well,
I have
yeah.
I have all the faith in the world that you could protect me from that anaconda. I'm not even going to have to worry or deal with it or anything.
I'd be like, "Come here, boy."
And watch me screaming down the road. Yes, indeed.
I
I'm
got
not
some
afraid of
invisible mice for you.
I'm not afraid of ghosts. I'm not afraid of anything in the paranormal. I am afraid of snakes and spiders.
I've got some invisible rats for you. Come on over here.
No, those are to feed the anaconda so he doesn't want anyone else.
Well, the thing that makes snakes look creepy is just that big gap in their teeth. If you ever fix their smile and make them look right, then they're nowhere near as
No, no. They wriggle. They slither and they're creepy. And for all the listeners that think they're wonderful and sleep with one at night, I apologize. That's not this girl. But, I actually heard tell at Fort Morgan that one of the teams from Loxley was in the maze, which is a part of Fort Morgan. And there was a snake crawling up the wall, into the wall, behind an investigator. And it was on night vision, and no one said anything, which is
Oh,
probably a good thing because they would have startled the snake and been bitten. But I just can't imagine experiencing that. And I mean, seriously, Fort Morgan doesn't bother me at all. You just have to be careful
right,
because it is an open environment and, there is wildlife.
right.
But the two things that I hate the most are there. So it's hard to get over that fear factor. I would never make it into the winner circle on that particular subject. But don't
So,
you know that that was just bizarre because when I was in that area of the fort, I heard someone walking like a boot step, like heel toe
mhm,
boots,
yeah.
and went out to look and came back, and the rest. So the people I was investigating with were in there. And that's when I heard the story about the snake crawling up the wall. And I thought that was hooey. And I started asking around, and it was not hooey. So when I say watch out for the snakes, I really mean watch out for the snakes.
Right.
But
I heard heel to toe like boot steps at Waverly Hills in the Death Tunnel too.
really, I've never
Yeah,
been
and
there.
my recorder did not pick it up. I was so mad.
I bet. Was that awesome?
Oh, it was. I'm sitting there, and the guy with me kept telling me it's the concrete settling. I said, concrete don't settle heel to toe.
Right.
You could hear the actual heel to toe footsteps.
Yeah, that's not concrete settling. That's just cement.
No,
That
Well,
and it was coming from the far end, like you would take the bodies down and then come back up,
mhm. Was it coming
and
towards you or
it
going
was
away?
no, it was coming towards us.
That's
And we took
disconcerting.
pictures and stuff down through there with flash and everything. You couldn't see nothing.
Right.
And I had my recorder running, laying there on the step where I was sitting at, and it didn't pick it up. I was so mad.
oh, I can
I
imagine.
bet. What do y'all think about them making that into a hotel?
Don't get me on that.
But
I do not like the idea.
I
but you
wonder if
know
they're going to
the
have a honeymoon suite.
oh that's fun.
Uh,
But you know, in
uh,
all
uh.
fairness, the Trans-Allegheny
Did
has
you
been redone
Mhm.
as a commercial venture. And
really?
yeah, but I mean they're restoring it. They're not making it a hotel or anything, but they're restoring it back to its and doing it with great detail to its former glory. It's beautiful. The people that bought it love
Wow.
it. And in fact, I had one of their paranormal tour guides on a show, Valerie Myers, and she was great. But they have done a beautiful job, and I think if Waverly is done in a similar fashion,
Mhm.
because I have friends who worked at Penhurst, and I know of people that worked at Waverly who just are so upset that they've been allowed to go to ruin so badly.
Right.
And you know, I think that I think that maybe they're doing it as a way to preserve it so that it doesn't just completely get to the point that no one can even enter it.
Right.
And if that's why they're doing it, I would pay to go there and stay. But I don't know if they're going to still allow you to investigate. I haven't researched it that much yet.
Oh, I would almost bet that that would be something that they would continue because that's something that generates so much revenue. There's so many people wanting to investigate there. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
And, you know, if they do it with the same motivation that they're doing Trans-Allegheny, then
Hmm.
and with the same attention to detail, then it would be okay, I think. But
You
I
know,
don't know. I just would love to see it
I
now.
I'm surprised more
I
municipalities don't take advantage of some of these locations.
Well, I know it's like Caraway here.
Hmm.
That's a fantastic facility. It's a great building. That neighborhood is being revitalized.
Right.
And, it's tragic to see what these places are becoming because nobody cares enough to maintain them.
right. Okay, everybody, hold your thoughts. We're gonna take a short break. Refill your coffee cups, beer glasses, green beer, whatever you're drinking. We will be back in a few minutes.
All right.
So
Paranormal King Radio Network, bringing you the best paranormal hosts and guests. Bringing you the best paranormal shows and features. Playing the top musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. With the best paranormal hosts and guests. The best in paranormal shows and features. Playing the best musical artists from around the world. Paranormal King Radio Network. The paranormal will never be the same.
All right, we're back, everybody. I say we're back. Yeah, we're back. Okay. We are back. Man, gremlins won't leave me alone.
Well, yeah, perhaps we should say, can you hear us now?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Good.
I love it.
Yep. That yeah, I can see it now. That's gonna be our new network slogan.
Hey,
Can you hear me now? Good.
I can laugh because I have done that. So
Oh my God.
I can't.
King said he's wearing a green Speedo.
Oh, my eyes, my mind's eye, my mind's eye.
That is not something we wanted to picture.
At least you didn't share the picture, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, don't share the picture, King. We're all right with that.
Oh. Well,
Anyways.
I was threatening Ross earlier that I'm going to load up on green beer before the show tomorrow night. So
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Will you be speaking
I told him
with an Irish
he was
bread?
complaining about my music, and he said we need to get Frank as a DJ. I said, well, I can play you some Bee Gees, Ross, if it make you feel better.
It back to your
He
ear.
said- He said, no, Frank will do that tomorrow night.
No,
Frank, do you even have any BGs?
actually, I think I do have 2 or 3 of those songs.
I'm sure I could find him some Saturday Night Fever or something like
Absolutely.
that. You know,
More
Well,
than one.
Right.
staying alive, staying
Well,
alive.
actually, I think tomorrow I'm going to play all traditional Irish folk music.
Well, that'd be appropriate.
By the Bee Gees.
Right. As
Gotta hit those high notes.
Right. As interpreted by Ozzy Osbourne.
There you
There you
go.
go.
There you go. Now you got it. Oh, that reminds me. I need to add that to my list. Ross will love that.
Ozzy?
I got a couple of good Ozzy songs I play for him.
I love it.
I love No More Tears and Crazy Train. I'd have to play them for him.
Crazy trying to do any day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No More Tears is good, too.
Yeah.
You ain't familiar with that
I
one?
am.
I love that one.
You know,
Or U2 band. U2 is good. I like U2.
yeah. You know, Crazy Train played on my MP3 player when it wasn't even loaded on it when my nephew got it with me. When my sister
That
was
was
leading
Ozzy.
me, it was scary.
That was Ozzy. He was passing through.
But that was the kicker. That's what convinced her that he really had come to me. That's a true story.
Wow.
So
Okay.
one of those things.
Now, without further ado,
Adieu.
parting is such sweet sorrow. We want to hear about Sloss Furnace.
All right. I can do
Yeah.
Sloss Furnace.
We'll do it.
Well, I've been there several times because, you know, it's down the street basically. And my team leads tours there on occasion, and that's lots of fun. It's always good to see people experience that. And those tours are at night, although you don't have to be there at night to get fantastic evidence. The
So I've
the
heard.
place is awesome, and I actually, a lot of people, poo-poo the whole flashlight experience, but I believe in it. If I'm getting good direct responses to to questions with a flashlight, that's not just random, oh, the battery swelled up or whatever. Um, and I've had that experience there. I was actually in the tunnels with Adam Berry from Ghost Hunters, who taught me how to do that. And it was a really neat experience because he and Amy Bruni had investigated that together with Meatloaf, which would be a great song to play for Ross, because that map
Right.
shows up all the time. And, it was,
Paradise by the dashboard
yes,
lights.
sir. And it's just a good place. I've actually gotten footsteps walking through the puddles when I was investigating during the daylight. So, and it wasn't just drips, it was obvious steps
Right.
going away from me. So that's cool. But, and people go in there that, usually it's ghost hunt weekends that comes and, does events there. And, we had another group come in recently, and I did not participate with this, just because I was sick. And also, I can go anytime. If they come here and they, have a chance for someone else to investigate, I usually don't go.
Right.
Um, with the ghost hunt weekends thing, I can just go and do the pre-investigation experience, see friends and visit with people, and then, I go home when they start the investigation. But they have done some stuff to pump up activity. The last time they had a thunderstorm, and they were also using a 18, I think it was 18 megahertz pulse under their music.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I had to leave as a sensitive. It was making me crazy. I couldn't sit there, but I was antsy and just, the hair standing up and everything. That really pumps up your atmosphere
Right.
and gives them something to feed off of. But I didn't mind that. But I heard from the participants that the last group that came in had a man in a fire suit, like stuntmen use, that they lit up and ran him around inside Sloss, like around the vat areas and everywhere, and hoping to provoke activity. And that just flipped me out.
Yeah.
Just, Sloss has a lot of wood in their structure, and it's a National Historic Landmark, and it could have gone up, they were using accelerant, obviously, on the suit, so that means there was accelerant there. And it was a little freaky to me. But also, kind of the same thing as with Old South Pittsburg, they were trying to evoke a response based on the tragedies that are known and rumored to have happened there with the smelting pots that people, if you're smelting metal, it pops.
Mm-hmm.
And it will pop onto someone, and it's a horrible, horrible burn. Or, the rumor had it that the men got tired of one of their foremen who was just a bad person, and they took him up and tossed him in one. So they were hoping to evoke a response based on those legends. And
Now I've heard that was a fictitious story.
The name is fictitious, but it's not. The story, I don't think, is. There's no documentation of it, but it has been around Birmingham from day one of right after it happened, ostensibly happened. But at any rate, they were trying to get this response, and they called it their firewalk. And you know, I just think that if I were someone who saw one of my friends die like that,
Right.
that I would not be keen on the people doing that. It would be traumatic, just like the heart
Absolutely.
attack thing at the other location we talked about.
Right.
And I am not all about, I think if a spirit is here that has a reason to be, but sometimes it can be because of the pain and the trauma of their death experience. And why would you want to cause something to have that much pain again? So
Absolutely.
that's just my take on it. But anyway, I wasn't, you know, I wasn't there. So obviously my 2 cents worth didn't get put in. I just thought it was mean to the ghosts.
Right.
Well, and
What do y'all think about that?
I, I think it's personally, I think anything like that is reckless. Um,
Right.
because of the fact there's so many ways that can go wrong. Um, but I I also believe that like you were saying, I don't think it's right to dredge up those, you know, a traumatic event and reopen those wounds to try to prod a response. I I just don't
Well,
think that should
another
be
thing
done.
about that you're talking about when you don't know what could happen with that is
Mhm.
that they had paying people who were not true investigators, who were there for
Right.
the drama of the, oh, I'm going ghost hunting. You know, they're not
Right.
used to being in that environment and they don't know what can happen. So
Mhm.
you're responsible for those clients. Those are clients. You're responsible for their safety in all ways. And so that's another thing that had kind of taken me aback. And I'm sorry I interrupted you, but when you said that,
Right.
it made me think of it.
Oh no, I absolutely agree. That's definitely something to consider. It's it there's so many ways that could have gone wrong that um I like I said it's just completely reckless.
Yeah. And, it makes you wonder why someone thought that was a good idea. You know, it just boggled my mind when I heard about it. And then I asked after the fact how it had gone, and it was like, oh, amazing. So I know it did. Ah, we have a question in chat.
Yeah. King was asking, would any of you participate or partake in a seance? I had when I was a kid and scared the living crap out of me.
It's kind of what we do when we do EVP sessions.
Right.
Well, yeah, but not exactly.
Well,
How do you think it's different?
Well, when we did our seance, we weren't just asking questions. We were calling up the spirit of a deceased person.
Oh, so you were asking that person to come up. Not
And show themselves, yes. And he did.
get out. Really?
It was my uncle. And I hate to even say this on the air because it's horrible, but my aunt uh, caved his skull in with a hammer and killed him while he was passed out on the bed.
Gracious.
And I asked for him to show up, and he did, looking right in my window.
wow.
And I had to go change my drawers. We didn't do any more seances after that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And see, all of this happened, Frank's familiar with, the fact that I saw spirits when I was around 9 years old. Well, this all happened around that same period.
Ah.
So everything was going on with me right then. I was seeing spirits, and then I asked for one to show up, and they did, and yeah.
Yeah, I'd have probably taken a break too.
Yeah.
Did you stop seeing them after that? Did you block them out?
I don't know if I blocked them out, but my grandparents, was drilling it into my head that there's no such thing and all this stuff. And you want to believe that they know what they're talking about, but I knew what I saw.
Right.
But at some point there, after that, I didn't see things anymore.
Right.
How long did it take before you got involved in the paranormal again?
I didn't really get involved with the investigating part of it until around 2004. Because one thing is, you didn't hear a lot about that stuff when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
It was taboo, like sleeping in the same bed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I never thought nothing about that. And as I got to be an adult, and I had some personal experiences, and of course I never forgot about that stuff.
Right.
And I watched my first episode of Ghost Hunters. And not because it was a TV show, but when they first started out, they were real.
Yeah.
They actually investigated residential places with kids and stuff like that, and really wanted to help people.
Yeah, back then.
And and they tried to debunk everything. And now they don't do any of that. Well, now they don't do nothing because it got canceled. But it got to a point to where they didn't investigate residences anymore, and they didn't try to debunk everything like they used to. And it just got to where I didn't care anything about it anymore. But that's what actually showed me that there was a way I could prove what I saw. So yeah, that won me over.
Right.
I'm like, hey, this is what I can do, So after that, it was like, somebody opened up the floodgates, and I ain't stopped since.
That's
So anyway, that's about what I had on you in your bio. So if you have anything new to add, by all means.
Oh.
We'd love to hear about it.
Well.
What about the radio show you did? The one you was telling me about.
I know. I was so excited. I've never ever done this before, but a friend of mine has a paranormal show on the Armed Forces Radio Network, and Saturday morning, I got to participate with that, and it's Rob Anderson, and it was just amazing. We actually were talking with the people on a ship. So
speaking of being on a ship, everyone's saying they lost sound.
Refresh.
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 I'll type it in.
Oh, okay.
Because I was having some trouble hearing a little bit when you were talking. It was breaking up some. But anyway, I'm just going to tell everybody again that I got to participate in a show on the Armed Forces Radio Network Saturday. And it was the Ghost Ship Hunter, Captain Rob, and it was awesome. We were talking to men who were on a ship, and men and women, and it was just awesome. It was myself and my friend Irina as his guests, and she's out of Augusta, and it was just fabulous. It was a great experience. I love our military. a company that I used to work for made military esprit de corps items and the unit coins and such, and I loved getting to help with that. And I helped design a couple of them and learned so much and met so many nice people. And I appreciate so much what everyone who serves for our nation is willing to put on the line for everything that matters.
Exactly.
I'm so bad about saying that, but I try to every time that I see veterans, and I always, like to do volunteer work with them. And King said I never told anyone, and that's because it came up very quickly. It was discussed a little bit, and Saturday morning I had the fire up your Skype, here I come thing, because it depends totally on what's going to happen, where they are. And, there's a lot of activity going on military-wise, and, their schedule dictates what happens. So that's why it was able to work.
Now, Frank, I got to ask you real quick here. They're talking about the wheel and the guy getting crushed in the thing. Was that recently, or?
No, that was actually while Sloss was in operation. It, if you look at the fence behind me, that was put up after the fact. There was a man who was standing there. Actually, if you look, you can see that little floodlight. There's a little magnetic floodlight stuck to a pole there.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a man who was leaning up against that pole. Actually, of all things, he took his lunch break, just eating on the fly, and he was standing there against it. He's eating a sandwich. Well, that giant wheel used to spin. If I remember correctly, they said that it went around 800 RPM, and you can imagine, because looking at that photo, I'm 5'11", so you see the height of that wheel in relation to me.
Right.
How much of a draft that thing moving at 800 RPM is going to be.
Right. Like a suction
Right.
cup.
And the man was standing there next to that pole, lost his balance, and he fell in to the wheel.
Now, it was also rumored that he was pushed in by an unseen entity.
I think he just got caught
That's
up in the draft.
right. They when the machine, spinning, of course, you can hit an emergency stop on the machine, but even so, it's spinning so fast, such a large machine, it's still going to take it a few minutes to wind down.
Right.
That right. So something that large doesn't have an instant stop. And the witnesses on the scene said that every time the wheel would turn, that there was less of him there, and
Yeah.
it just completely mangled him, just to utter, for lack of a better term, hamburger meat.
Right.
And when that picture was taken that I posted in the chat there, we were getting some activity there, and so so I always took it. That seems to be a location that people get a lot of EVPs from.
Now, we have talked about people reliving their death experience. Could you imagine
No.
having to relive that over and over?
And that's what they were trying. I mean, they actually, the group that I mentioned, brought whatever, the aluminol, I think it is, that the police
Yes.
departments use.
Mhm.
And, I don't know how they had that set up, but they did investigations 2 nights, and they said that the group sprayed the aluminol in and around that wheel and had blood
Right.
residue show up. And that's pretty interesting, because they're actually yeah, somebody was saying that that's urban legend. That is not urban legend.
No, that's not. That is actually documented.
Yes. And so my girlfriend who was participating with that group said that it was so exciting because they had, answered an or proven an urban legend. And I was like, well, that wasn't a legend, but that's pretty cool. So
Right.
I just couldn't imagine reliving that.
Well, another one that is was rumored for a long time to be urban legend, but was actually proven true. And I'm not sure if during that event, if they actually investigated it or not, was the men who died from the steam explosion in the basement
Yes.
up under the boiler room. Um, there were there were three men working up under the blower engine, and while they were in there, one of the lines exploded, and these things, it, if you ever seen the size of the blower engines there, they're absolutely massive. As a matter of fact, I'll post a picture in the chat room because I have one of the engine. It's the part that sticks above the floor surface is taller than I am, and when it um, when it exploded, it actually covered these three men, majority of their body, with these steam burns so badly that two of the men died just within a few minutes,
Uh-huh.
and one of them almost died. Now, if I'm not mistaken, as, as of I know as of a year and a half ago, he was still alive and still living in Birmingham.
I didn't know that.
hmm
That's
Um,
pretty cool.
mhm. But the but the other two were, I mean, a sight that looked like something out of a horror movie. I mean, you can imagine having those third degree massive burns over 90% of their body. They shouldn't have been able to move, but one of them, along with this, one of the men didn't make it from out of the basement. Two of them come up the steps, and they were mangled so badly from this explosion that it said that the other workers said that they were both dead, but they just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
And of course, one of them survived, and as far as I know, still alive today. And the other one died shortly thereafter, within just minutes. But
That
that
was
was
just,
actually true.
yeah. I,
So, how many people that you know of actually died at Sloss?
oh gosh.
I mean, during operation. I'm not talking about afterwards or anything.
Um, one,
Well,
probably several that weren't considered like work related at that time because if you got burns from that smelted
hmm
metal popping up on you back then, it wasn't likely that you were going to be okay. Um, and that happened a lot. It was it was just a horrific job, and it was in the middle of, there's the whole area around it was like a company town. You hear about that with the
Right.
company
Yeah.
store, and they had their own, chits and stuff to pay with. But
hmm
um, it's just I have no idea what the actual number is, to be quite
um,
frank.
well, uh, I'll be frank, and
Oh well,
Okay. I'll
you
be
can be
Roger.
frank tonight.
I'll be Roger. She'll be Cat.
Yeah.
um, the one time we tried to figure it out, and I think the closest number that we got was an estimate of around 360, give or take, of course.
Jiminy crickets.
And of course that's just a very loose figure,
Yeah.
but that is based on um, actual deaths that were reported and considering accidents that were non-fatal accidents that had conditions that could have led to a death with and then comparing that looking for those names in the obituaries later
Right.
because um, because you have things that wouldn't be listed as a job related death from according to the standards at the time. Say say someone gets cut on a piece of machinery and it sets up tetanus. Tetanus causes, you know, they get tetanus, they get gangrene, whatever, causes infection, and the infection kills them. Then it's not going to be written up in the official paperwork from the company as a work-related death. It's going to be death from infection in the hospital records. So sometimes you have to look if you can get in touch, get a hold of the accident reports and compare them to the local obituaries. Then you can find out some information that way. But
Right.
there's also something to consider though. Is there were a number of immigrants who worked there, and there were a lot of workers who were there before the civil rights movement. Um, so a lot of a lot of the people who were working there didn't get the same treatment. They didn't have the same benefits, and a lot of them um, didn't have the same documentation. They didn't have a lot of the things that happened to them didn't get recorded because of
Yeah.
it.
Well, I
So,
don't think that they were really great about keeping records of that at that time anyway,
hmm
because nobody wanted to. They needed workers. They didn't want people to know how horrific it was.
exactly.
And
Well, they didn't want to scare people off before they got them
right,
hired.
but once they had them hired, they had them because it really was you shop in the company store and you put it down on your tab, and then your paycheck goes to that, and you know you can't ever get ahead. It really was, from what I understand, exactly like what you hear from that era anyway. It wasn't an unusual circumstance, but it was a difficult circumstance.
Kind of like with the what they call them. There's some of the first businesses that came over here,
Hmm.
textile mills and stuff like that.
Hmm.
hmm
And they did have indentured servants in those places, especially in New England where they first
hmm
came. We still to a degree have that in our resort areas and stuff now. So it's just it just seems to be a never ending thing because it just goes, you know, people with greed who need help find young people who, you know, would give anything to be here, and so they sign agreements, or they get here and they don't know someone, and they're all in one area. I mean, it still happens to this day. It happened
Well, I
the whole
mean,
time.
and plus back then, decent jobs were hard to find.
Yes, and
You
and
know,
it had housing. They
Right.
had homes.
so so yeah, I mean, they had a lot of things going for them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something to think about at this particular time. That was the only way to get off the farm. you know.
Yeah.
And if you were and like was the case in many situations, if if you were an immigrant or you were coming in from another city or something like that, you didn't have many options. So this was the ideal opportunity. But like we had talked about, when you're getting paid in store tokens
Hmm.
instead of cash, it's kind of hard to go. And I've always wanted to investigate some of those areas around Sloss.
Yeah,
There where the quarters were, as they called it, the little
kind of
neighborhood.
difficult.
Hmm.
It's not someplace that you should really, and most of it's gone. You would think that
Right.
they would have preserved some of that as well, but you would wish that someone had had the foresight to do that. But
Now I gotta ask this question because back during that time there was a lot of that going on. Did they have like separate uh, housing areas for like blacks and whites, or were they segregated or?
Oh yeah, this was back during the early 20th century, and um, of course, Birmingham was known for segregation and everything else.
Right, that's why I was saying. Did they have them like separated and
I don't know.
like
I don't know if they did entirely there because the immigrants were not considered a different class really than blacks
Mm.
because just because. I mean, bigots are bigots the world over, and it wasn't just here. It's
right?
it was across the nation.
Right.
It came to a head
Well,
here,
and
and it just
i
was.
back then they had a lot of immigrants coming over
Mhm.
here, and they were looking for whatever they could find, and of course they were looking to live the American dream.
Yeah.
So they figured, they're gonna come over here and go to work at a big place like that, make good money, and live the easy life.
Well, and in all fairness, that was considered a really good job here,
Hmm.
um, because you did have the housing. It was steady work. You had a place for your family to live. You had a way to take care of them because you were paid in company money, but you could use it there. And I'm not sure about outside of the Sloss community, but it actually was, believe it or not, considered a great job.
So what's this about? Uh, Roy's asking, tell him about the black guy who was the boss and was bad on the black people.
Well, that kind of goes back to it, and it. Anyone who has ever heard me on the air more than an hour has heard me say, do your own research. Don't
Yeah.
look at another site and copy it and paste it. Um, reason is, how many websites? You know, it. If you're in chat, I guarantee you can go to um, any of the haunted location websites that you want to and look up Sloss Furnace, Birmingham, Alabama, and you'll see them
Slag.
talking about slag. How slag is going to
Right.
he haunts the place. He's this evil
He was the one they
spirit.
pushed into the thing, right?
Well, that's what the information says, and it's the same information copied and pasted from one website to another to another to another to another, and it's absolutely wrong. Slag never existed. Um, slag was invented in 1998 by a marketing company who needed a good ghost story for their Sloss Furnace Halloween attraction that they do every year. It
Ah.
was a good ghost story. It was a good urban legend, and sooner or later it caught on. And
Gave
and what
limbs.
right and what kills me is it. If you ever seen the Ghost Adventures episode
Yes.
where he where Zach Bagans comes to Birmingham, and he's in Sloss Furnace, and he's out there trying to provoke slag, and he's out there, strutting around and everything, and he's like, "Oh, well, slap me, slap me," and you know it. Um,
So he actually really was trying to call on a
right,
ghost that didn't exist.
right, and I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, okay, now I can see like a little mom and pop team or
Hmm.
some of the people that just do it like one weekend a month, or the amateur guys or something like that that don't
King
understand.
said, "Don't call Ghost Adventures liars. They always tell the truth."
that you I can see someone who's not really experienced or doesn't have many resources not getting proper research. I can understand that. But I mean, come on. If you have a major network, they should have spent the money to research the location. That's all I can say, because
They probably did.
it was just more of an embarrassment than they already do to themselves. But I
I'm sorry, y'all, but Zach's a
right,
moron.
uh, yeah, it's, you
Well,
know,
there's no reason to be calling. I mean, they had the background.
hmm
They had the full history. And, I have a real problem because someone I respect a lot thinks that Zach is a wonderful young man as far as personality. And he may be.
right,
But,
From what I heard, he's a real crap wad.
well, he stops production to take care of his fans. So that's the only thing I know about him. But I do know that I do not agree with his investigative techniques
right,
at all. And to come in, and also he wrote his name. Where did he write it, Frank? On the water tower?
yeah,
Which was taboo. And, I'm just kind of like,
right,
well, what are you doing?
right.
Why would you do
Well,
that?
well,
And, yeah, they do a lot of things to make the show better, but
Yeah,
it's not,
it's about the
right.
it
ratings.
is all
It's
about ratings, but,
Uh, but yeah,
it's
too.
like,
Oh,
no ratings, no money. You know, I
well,
mean,
it's like
but
the
yeah,
friend that was telling me that said that, you have to remember it's television, it's entertainment.
but yeah,
And people get those confused sometimes.
right. But
And,
but see, and that is why I would never do a TV show.
well, I would do one, but I wouldn't
If
do
I
one if
got
it
a,
couldn't be authentic.
right, if I couldn't do it my way, I wouldn't do it. I would not. There's no way I'd get on there and act like such an idiot.
Well, and I wouldn't do, like I know, I know that there's stuff that gets not necessarily just that show where evidence gets
Oh yeah,
adjusted, shall we say?
exactly.
And
And you got to figure if that stuff goes through the network before it goes on the air, they're gonna cut out what they don't want, and they're gonna ad lib what they do want.
right, but the whole thing is I mean, when you investigate, and I investigate, and all of our listeners investigate, you find evidence. You may not
right,
get it in the first 10 minutes. You may not get it in the first
Exactly.
trip. But, you do find evidence. The spirits who are there do want help, or they do want to communicate, or they do just want to, harass you. They just want to be
If
left
nothing
alone.
else, 90. Yeah, if nothing else,
right.
99% of the time you're gonna at least get an EVP.
Well,
Yes. And,
it's kind of like we were joking around the other night when we had an investigation Saturday night, and while we're unpacking, we've got the DVR spread out, we've just put together the full spectrum camcorder, we've got just this room full of equipment, and there were only a couple of us there, and you know I looked over at Donald, and I said, wow, you can tell we're short-handed tonight. And he looks back at me, and Donald says, you know, why don't they ever show this part of the investigation on those shows?
Right.
He did. He said, I bet if they showed this particular part of the investigation, nobody would really want to get into this is reality.
Exactly.
Bring your camera crew in here now.
yeah.
Well, you know, and in the beginning of Ghost Hunters, when I watched it back in the day, they didn't always get something,
Hmm.
and they would say, you know, we didn't get anything. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything. Now, well, before it got canceled the last what couple of years, they were getting something everywhere they went.
Right.
Well, you know what's really
You know, and
what's indicative of what people thought of that is the fact that they had a whole nother, 6 or 8 episodes in the can. They were supposed to be rebroadcast or supposed to be broadcasting January 26th, and they're not even running that last season. They
wow,
ate that last season, and that's
Right.
something. Something serious must have occurred, and
oh yeah,
and it's just I just find that odd that they had a whole season in the can and didn't even
that they
use it.
didn't never air. Yeah,
So, I don't know what's up with that, but I heard they were bringing in that Australian team, and that Sci-Fi was. I can't remember the name of them, but
Right.
it'll be interesting to see what the difference is. Yeah, it's cool to go and investigate nifty Keno places that no one else can go, but it's always good to dance with the one who brought you, and that's taking care of people.
right.
Yep. I agree. But but yeah, talking about slag earlier, the you know, not only was that whole thing made up about him. Now there was a man who was pushed into or fell into the furnace. That is documented. That really happened.
Yeah.
His name was Theophilus Jowers, and that was that was a documented case. He was a foreman, um, but he never worked for Sloss Furnace. Um, he
Okay, I
actually,
didn't know that.
yes, he actually worked for Oxmoor Furnace.
Oh,
O- Oxmoor Furnace is where he worked when he fell or was pushed into the furnace, which was nicknamed Big Alice. And he of course, that particular story is true. He fell into Big Alice. He was incinerated. There was not much left of him. They found part of his hip bone and part of his foot. That is completely 100% true.
So what was he doing there
Um,
if he worked for some other furnace?
well, the Oxmoor Furnace, which was on the other side of Birmingham, closed in 1906. At this time, Sloss Furnace only had one furnace in operation on the site. When Oxmoor Furnace shut down, Sloss bought the old furnace from Oxmoor. They took the old furnace apart, had the furnace reassembled on the site where Sloss Furnace is, and directly in front or directly next to the furnace that they already had in operation. So now they had two working furnaces on it. And that's, um, where the Big Alice furnace that you see them talk about a lot on the at the Sloss Furnace site came into effect. So that's where the newer furnace for the location came from. Was it actually used to be the Oxmoor furnace? So when they reconstructed the furnace on the site, that was when the sightings of Jowers began ha- began being reported there. But it was not until the furnace was reconstructed. Before that, the sightings of Jowers were occurring at the old location where the Oxmoor furnace was.
wow. The things you didn't know. Thank you.
Well, that's we. I I've studied Sloss quite a bit over the years because there was one thing about it though is did you know that there's been paranormal activity reported there long before Sloss Furnace was ever constructed?
What was there previous to that? Anything
It
or?
used to be part of a Native American settlement.
Oh,
As a
okay.
matter of fact,
Everything here used to be Native American settlements. This was one of the most densely populated areas.
mhm. It was a Native American settlement, and then it later, as the railroads came in, it it later became kind of an immigrant area. It was kind of a melting pot, if you will, which made property there, the property in that area was at a lower cost, which was one of the reasons that Sloss bought that particular tract of land when they built the furnace, because it was some of the lowest priced real estate in Birmingham at the time. And he so he bought it, and he because the railroad track was already close by. It was a central location for all of the major rail lines that expanded out from the area, and it was centrally located to all of the iron ore mines in the area. So it was a great location to put a blast furnace.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but the great thing about it is, aside from all of that, the main siding at Sloss, and we were talking about it being a Native American settlement, is there is a white deer is the most reported apparition at Sloss Furnace.
I
Wow.
didn't know that.
Hmm.
An albino.
Hmm. There's a white.
Spirit deer.
Hmm. It they report that it crosses over, comes from 30 comes over from 30th Street, crosses the property under the First Avenue underpass, goes across the property, and then goes under where the old rail line was, and then goes out through the back of the property.
William was asking, was it a burial ground?
I'm not sure of that. I'm I'm not sure, but I do know that there was a settlement there, and it was a densely populated settlement that was.
And I'm sorry if it was not William because y'all have Will and Mel, and I don't know which one of you it is.
Usually
So,
Mel comes in as Mel, so I'll bet that's Will. Because it
well,
said Howdy Cat when he signed in.
and that's like the second most commonly reported apparition there is of a little girl.
Yep. And
That's
and
strange.
I had a little girl in the tunnels with me.
That's where
And
she's normally seen.
yeah. And
Now I'm gonna do Sloss if I ever get down there, Frank. We're gonna have to go in the daytime though. I can't afford that 2 arms and a leg they want.
Right.
But if I make it down there, we're gonna have to go visit that in the daytime so I can at least get to check it out.
well, it's great in the daytime. You will love it. And you can see all the detail of the architecture and the equipment
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
too. It's
Hmm.
just it is
And you know
beautiful.
it to me, it's the history, the place, not necessarily just the spirits, but the history. The place. I want to see what it looked like. You know, kind of get a gist of how it operated, stuff like that.
Right. Uh, um. Yeah. It's a great place to go, and you know if you ever get the opportunity to investigate through there, it's really just as good during the daytime as it is at night. It really
I
is.
think it's better
Hmm.
because I can,
Because.
especially if you like the tunnels, and I love the tunnels.
Hmm.
Um, you just have to be aware of where you're put. It's always wet.
Right.
So, you always need to have on good shoes, and it's dirty. There's rusty equipment down there. There's all kinds of stuff. There's the car bed thing, the rails, and it's really a very active but very cool place.
Right.
So I I don't like the wheel. The wheel still has emotion attached to it.
Right.
But the tunnels, the people in the tunnels are not upset.
Mm-mm.
So I can deal with that. I can deal with all of it, but the tunnels are my favorite.
Right.
Oh, and that
If it's
boiler room
paranormal, I can deal with it.
downstairs.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think I've got the most EVPs on the times I've investigated there the uh, from around the wheel and from the basement underneath the blower room.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get ready to close this thing down. Kat, if you got some links you want to put up, throw them up
All
there.
right.
Uh,
Well, you can catch me on Wednesday nights on the Paranormal. I can't even speak anymore. The Paranormal King Radio Network, paranormalking.com. And there's a chat link there. And if you're on mobile, we are www.mixlr.com/paranormal-king. Chat option there. And we have a website, www.paranormalexperienced.com. And this is the greatest network because every night you're going to learn something new. We have the greatest hosts. We have the greatest guests. I have Dave Giuliano on my show this week, and he has done it all. So he started Shadowlands. He is the owner of the Ghost Hunter Shop.
Mm-hmm.
He's just brilliant, and he has a history of being a police officer and law enforcement officer, and he is just fabulous. Even because of that, if it weren't for the paranormal stuff. So, great show, and this network, man, you got to hit it up. You got to check out all the shows. We have so many great hosts who bring in the best guests. We are really trying to get some answers.
Absolutely.
and it's awesome to be here. Everybody, thanks for coming. Uh, be sure to tune in tomorrow night for Frank's show, Paranormalities and Ponderings. At what time is it? 8 o'clock?
That'll be 8 o'clock Central Time.
8 Central, 9 Eastern. Uh, Next week on the Roundtable, we have Teresa Communicates, and this is an awesome psychic lady, and she really knows her stuff. So y'all be sure to tune in for that one. Um, let's see who else we got coming up. The next one will be after you will be Ross himself on Thursday, right?
Ross and Holly, and there's a show between them,
Right.
the Skeptical,
Okay.
which is
So anyway, tune in every night. You're sure to find some interesting people, some interesting guests. Uh, you can't beat it. You know, we got one of the best networks there is,
oh,
and everybody's like family. So y'all just chime on in and enjoy yourself.
we left out Roy's show also on Wednesday.
Yeah,
I'm
Roy,
sorry, Roy.
Worldwide. Yeah, I apologize. Many apologies there.
And if your group is not already signed up on the Worldwide Paranormal Society, check them out. They're on
Exactly. Go there,
Facebook.
do
They're
that.
also got their webpage, and it's a great directory of teams around the world. So if someone is looking for help in a specific area, they know who to go to. Put your
And,
team in there,
We
help
got
people out.
and I'm going to say this. I've had Roy help me with a case before, and man, what they do with that project is great. We're trying to round up some help for a client who had contacted us. and they were actually several states away from me. And what he was able to do through the Worldwide Paranormal Society, he was able to get me in touch with the team who was able to help that client get someone out that was close to them just within a matter
Awesome.
of a day.
Exactly, and that means a lot. You know, when you can't be somewhere and you get a call, you want to make sure that you send somebody worthy.
Right,
Yes.
and that's something else. Is it wasn't, it wasn't just somebody who went to a website. It was somebody that he could personally vouch for. Excellent
Right.
team. The client was satisfied with them. It just excellent experience, and I'm telling you that's a project that everyone needs to definitely support and
And
participate in.
participate. Yeah, participate. Put your team in there
Exactly.
because sometimes somebody's going to need you or you're going to need help just like Frank did.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about is helping them out.
Well, I mean, if I ever get a call for, something down that way, you know who I'm going to send them
Yep.
to. So, uh, I'll say, hey Frank, I got a case for you. Call Kat up, y'all get in on that.
All about it.
That's right. Okay, I'm gonna say my fare thee wills and see everybody next week.
Have a good one.
Have a great one. See you tomorrow.
Good night, y'all.
Join host Roger Belt and the teacher Frank Lee on the Half-Past Dead Paranormal Roundtable on the Paranormal King Radio Network every Monday night at this same time for another haunted evening.